So we're going to be coloring this one I called Squid, because I thought the design kind of looks squid-like. So the first thing you'll want to do is figure out which colors you want to color it. Now, the way I color is I like to make sure every area has some depth. And so usually each area has more than one color. And often going from dark to light to create shaping and rounding and depth. So what I've done here is, I've gone from darker to lighter here. And then I put all these pinks on one side and all these oranges on one side. And that creates this rounded shape. And then on the green, I came along this ridge with a little bit darker, like an olive green, and then highlighted with a little bit of yellow. And that gives that swirl on the ridge some depth, so it really pops out. So, first things we want to do is decide on the colors. So we'll do the shell part first. And the colors that I decided on are these, which are like a green and a peacock and a baby blue. And those are the three colors that are there. So what you can do, what a lot of people like to do, is they want to make sure that they like the color combination. So if you want, you can take a piece of scrap paper and you can take the colors you're planning on using and you can do like a test. So there's that olive green that'll be at the bottom. And then here's that peacock, and I'll kind of overlap it to see what they look like as they blend together. Colored pencils blend very nicely. They're almost like paint. And then the baby blue on top. And then that's kind of the color combination that I'm happy with. You can obviously do any three colors you want. So then I'm also going to go ahead and test the pink and the orange to make sure that those are the ones that I want. So I knew that I wanted an orange. I'm just going to get a little lighter. So if you want it darker, push a little bit harder and keep going on the same spot, and then go a little bit lighter as you move away, a little lighter in pressure. And then the pink, which I wanted kind of on the top. So a little bit heavier pressure and then just go a little bit lighter. And you get this nice shaded effect. So yeah, I like that color combination. And then on those swirl ones, those little triangle swirls, we went from kind of a little olive green to highlight those peaks. And then we just highlighted everything with this yellow to just kind of give it some pop. So I'm happy with those colors. I think they look good together. So I think we can move on to actually coloring on our coloring page. I did coloring pages instead of a book because I know a lot of times you have, in coloring books, you want to be able to pull the pages out or cut them out. And I just went ahead and just made them individual pages so that it's easier to I usually put them on a clipboard so I can sit, watch TV or outside. When I'm coloring, and then when it's on a clipboard, you have a nice firm backing. So by having them as pages, it's easier to do that. So we're going to go ahead and start with the shell. Let me move these colors out of the way, and we're just going to work with these three. So we want to go from dark to light, like in our example. So down here at the little point, I'm going to put some of the green. Now to get these nice ombre effects or shaded effects, you're going to go back over and reapply the colors a couple times. So the first time you're just getting the green down. So just put in a little bit of the green. You know, it's not the final amount of green because you're going to go back and work over it to try to get that nice shaded effect. So now I have that peacock blue. And I'm going to go in with the peacock blue, just adjacent, and overlap it just a little bit so that they blend together. And I'll do all of these. You can see I'm just making a nice light peacock blue blend with that original green. And again, you know, I'm going to come back. I know I'm going to come back. And so I'm not going to fuss too much about how much of this blue. We're just getting the foundation of the blue on there. And then we'll go in with this lighter blue, which is like a sky blue almost. And we're going to do the final one, the final color in this ombre effect. So you can see that it's nicely blending from dark to light. Tamaya's going to come in and bark at me while I'm coloring for some reason. Daddy's working. Shh. Shh. So, there. Now you can see it's gone from this beautiful green to this light blue. Now, like I said, this isn't the final. You can see it's very flat. It's just green, peacock, baby blue. So we know that we want to go from darker to lighter. So I'm going to come in just on this point and put a little bit more green on there to kind of give it some depth. So it looks like it's kind of in a little crevice there. And then also, because these are kind of rounded, anytime you want your coloring to look rounded, you want to make it darker on the edges and lighter in the middle. That way it looks like there's a highlight of light right down the middle of the curve. So with this green, because I like how the green blends with everything, I'm going to use just this green for shadowing. So I'm just going to come along this edge, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker with just the green. And I'll do that on each of them, always on that same edge, because if you consistently put it on the same edge, then it gives the effect that it's a real 3D object. So I'm just going to come in here and make it a little bit darker. And I'll do it on this edge too, down in that point. I'm not fussy about my coloring, so if I accidentally go outside a line or outside an area, I really don't worry about it. After all, we are, you know, we're trying to have fun. And also, the end result, because there's so much going on, one little thing outside the line, one little line isn't going to make any difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on this edge too, to give it a nice pop right in the middle. So if we make it darker on the edge, then the middle will come forward visually, and it'll make it look more rounded. Isn't that great? Super easy, super fun. Now you can see that as I apply more and more layers of the pencil, I do have to push a little bit harder to get the pigment to stick. And that's okay, because the going from dark to light really gives it depth. I really like how that looks. So what I'll do, how I color, is once I figured out that's how I want the shell, for example, area to look, I'll go through and I'll just do all the greens, kind of do like a little do all this green here. It's kind of like a little assembly line where first do all the greens. That way I'm not putting the pencil down, and maybe if I'm getting to know the color, you know, sometimes some of the colors have their own little quirks, like the lead is softer or harder. And once I've learned how this pigment goes down, then I like to just keep going, because I feel like I've got control of this green. And I'm just going to go around the entire page and put all my greens down. Like so. Remember, that's just the first layer of green, lots of color coming, so we don't need to worry about it too much. So now I'll go back with that little peacock color, and I'm going to go across the entire page, and I'm going to get that peacock color put down. For this video, I'm not going to color the whole thing, but hopefully color enough that you get the idea of how to get the pigment on the page that can create, you know, the depth and the gradations, or the ombre, however you want to call it, that you're happy with. One of the main things to remember, like I said before, is if in every area you have more than one color or more than one shade of the same color, so maybe darker pinks and lighter pinks. You get a lot more depth with your coloring. It's much more pleasing to the eye. I'm just going to get this sky blue down. Maya quit barking, so that's nice. I knew as soon as I started filming this she would start barking. There's a lot of construction in the neighborhood, so she's been in seventh heaven for a while now. It's the funniest thing, she barks at all the construction workers, but then as soon as she's outside with them, she's like, I love you, let me have a piece of your lunch. Okay, so I put all those down, and you can see here that this one has so much more depth than these, because these just have the first layer. So we're just going to go in and smooth it out, get a little more darkness with the green, and you'll see how with colored pencils, you know, there's a lot, if you were to look really super close, you'd see there are a lot of little white spaces, and as you keep putting pigment down, you kind of are filling in and it smooths it out. See how much smoother that one looks? So we're just going to go in, get all the edges. By getting these edges darker, it makes the curve look much more 3D. And you can see it's not really complex process to get a nice 3D look. It's just a matter of knowing where to put the darks and where to keep the lights. If you have a curve along these edges here, you want them dark so that that middle part looks lighter. Because if you had a curved object underneath a light, these top parts that are closest to you would reflect the light more, so they would look lighter. And that's why this kind of fools the eye. Just going to keep on going, just so you can see. Oh, there she goes again. Barky, barky. Maybe you can't even hear barking, but I can. Koyana, on the other hand, is such a peaceful little dog. She's just laying at my feet, being quiet. So you can see that there's still a lot of white spaces because I did kind of throw that baby blue on really fast as I came through this area. So I don't like that. I'd like it to be smoother. So I'm going to take that baby blue and just kind of fill it in and kind of feather out those edges by going real light on top of them. And just kind of go over the whole thing. If you go over the whole thing with the lighter color, it doesn't change too much the coloring that you put down, like this is green and peacock, but it does fill in all those little white spaces that are real small but affect the overall look. You can see how much smoother this one is now than this one. So just go back in with the baby blue. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit. There. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to show you with the green. You get the idea that if you have rough edges here, just smooth them out with the lighter color. And there you go. That looks really, really good. I'm very happy with that. I often will put a bunch of the pigment down and I'll come back to it and go, oh, you know what, this needs to be smoothed out, or like, see how this one, the blue goes way up, but it only goes here? I kind of would like those closer together, so I would come in and bring that baby blue out just a little bit further. There, so that they're in a nice little line right there. I like that. Okay, so that's the shell part with 3 different colors of blue and giving a nice 3D effect. I'm very happy with that. So then I also wanted to show you this kind of body part here. This we're not going to do an ombre, we're just going to do shading. But with the shading, we can still get a nice 3D effect. So first what I want to decide is, you know, I have 2 edges, it's a curve, it'll be darker on each edge. Which side I want to be orange and which side I want to have pink. It doesn't matter, that's the fun, we're just coloring. So just choose whatever you want. Choose purple and yellow or brown and beige. I don't, you know, whatever you want to get 2 colors onto this spot. I'm going to go with orange. So I'm going to start by pushing a little bit harder at these edges, and then As you lift a little bit with your weight, you can see it gets a little bit lighter. These pencils are wonderful because you can get that dark and light just by holding the same pencil. You know, if you're painting, sometimes you have to add white or add dark to get lighter and darker, but with a colored pencil, you can just get in there and push a little harder, or go back over that space multiple times, and you can get a nice lighter and darker effect. So you can see when I got to this edge here, I kind of blended them together right at that tip because the orange is coming around to the pink. We like that. I like how it blends together. That's the other thing with pencils, is if you layer them on top of each other, you'll get a whole different color. So if you were to do something that's, let's say, blue, and you came in with a little bit of orange, that orange, whenever it overlapped with the blue, you get the nice beautiful brown that matches perfectly. So it's fun to experiment with the different colors and see how they're going to interact with each other. So because I know I like that, I'm going to go ahead and do the oranges. So I have orange right there. And then I know I'm going to do some orange right here. It's a little bit bigger area down here if you see, so you have to kind of fill it in. So I'm pushing harder at the edges. It's very important to make sure that your pencil's nice and sharp, because as it wears down, the area that you have on the paper becomes like maybe flat or rounded over, like a little nub there, and you get a whole different effect. You can't really get into the edges as easily. See how I'm getting in there and getting a nice crisp dark edge, which is going to help me create the 3D effect I'm looking for. Again, as I come out to the center, I lighten up a little bit. There. And then I'm going to go in with the pink. Now you can turn your paper if you need to. I don't want to do it too quickly on video because I know that makes people seasick. But this will make it easier for me to get in there without doing any Cirque du Soleil moves. So we're going to just go from pushing harder to pushing less. When they come together, we let them overlap because they make a nice new beautiful color together. That looks great. I like that. And then we're going to come in with this pink. Got a little more space down here, so there's a lot more filling in to do because it's a big shell. I think this is a squid. I don't know. Squids probably don't even look like that. I eat squid when I go for sushi, but it doesn't usually look like this anymore. So I keep saying I'm going to try out to go on Amazing Race so I can go all over the world, but of all the things they have to do, it's the weird funky food I can't handle the thought of. So there. I like that. So I'll turn it back around slowly. There. So I would continue, of course. I like to, it's interesting when I draw or when I create with crochet or knitting, I'm really drawn to making things asymmetrical, which means the left and the right side are different from each other. To me, that's more interesting visually. But when I color, I like to make sure everything's the same. So if I've decided that those three images are orange and pink, if it's repeated throughout the paper, I want to make sure that I do all of those the same. For me, when I color, symmetry is more beautiful. It gets less chaotic, and I think it's more pleasing to the eye, but I also think it's much more relaxing, because now I know that every time I come across that shape, I'm going to do the same colors. It keeps the color palette nice and tight, not too much going on, so it doesn't get too busy either, which I think is nice when you're coloring. So now I'm going to do these triangle areas, which have kind of a swirl and a ridge on top. And you can see when I drew it, I kind of shaded it in. I've given you a little bit of help about where to do your shading. It's kind of a light gray shading. And that helps you to know if you went a little bit darker there, it's going to help you make the image pop a little bit. So these are triangles, and I'm going to go in with this kind of it's kind of an olive green. It's a yellowy green. I think it looks nice with something that's maybe ocean themed, like this one seems to be a little bit of hearkening to the ocean. I'm going to go down this, because I want this to be dark. I want it to recede a little bit. So I'm going to put the green on it there. So then I'm going to go across the ridge so that it pops. And what happens here, if you look, as I make this side of that line dark green, it makes this side look like there's light shining on it, and it comes forward. So it gives you that visual pop. Kind of makes it look 3D-ish. And then I'll continue it over here. Turn the paper a little bit. And I'm going to get the ridge done. And then I want it to recede here, so I'm going to go down a little bit. Pushing harder at the edges so I get a little bit more pigment down. That helps it look darker. There. And now, to smooth it all out, because I like to use more than one color, I'm going to go ahead and use this yellow. It's very, very light. It's going to add color, but it's not going to change the look too much. And since it doesn't have a lot of color going on, I'm just going to color the whole thing. Because like I was saying with the blue, there's a lot of white that's showing, and that's what makes it look kind of sketchy. And so by going in with the yellow over the green and over the white, it smooths it all out. It puts all the pigment. You can see how this looks much smoother than this. This still seems a little, like you can see the pencil marks. So I'm going over the whole thing, not worrying too much about edges or anything, because it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be stressful. Then I'm going to come over to this one here. There, that looks great. I love that. Really has a lot of depth, a lot of movement because of the swirl. It's a nice 3D effect. So because I know that I like the green where I put it and the yellow where I put it, I'm going to go in on mine and just do all these swirls. The green of the swirl, so I'll come down to this one. The drawing itself has a nice, like I said, guideline of gray, so I know that this is the edge. Triangles get tricky, believe it or not. I sometimes lose track of where the edge of it is, because it's this one, and this one. Now if I had colored the wrong side of it, I would have lost that effect of the swirl, because they're kind of swirling around each other. So I need a little bit more here. Good. So I'm just going to finish this little section here. So then I'm just going in with the yellow, not worrying about anything. I'm just going to get it in there and smooth it all out. Get her done, as my family would say. There we go. So, yeah, that looks nice. I like that. This part here on the original one is kind of like a dark Mediterranean blue with a light blue. And then on these little plant-like things, I came in with some blue. I'll show you what I did with that, maybe with this peacock blue. And I just traced them. It's easy. I mean, it changes the color, believe it or not, even though that the lines are dark, like a dark gray or almost black. If you put a little blue on top of it, it actually does a nice job turning those little plant things blue. There's another that comes down here. Good. Yeah, I like that. So what I would recommend is that you choose a few colors that you like, not too many. Test them to see if they blend well together, you know, for you. This is all for you. If you like the color combination, that's all that matters. And then come in and realize that that first pass of color you're putting down is just the first pass. You can come in and add more, or you can come in and add different colors. See how that smoothed that out? I noticed that there was a lot of pencil strokes. So I'm going to come in and smooth it out by just putting a little bit more orange down there. Because the smoother the better, you know, you don't want to see the pencil marks. Just going to go over it. Same with this pink. I want just a little bit more color on there, and that'll get rid of all those pencil marks. So there you go. That's just a few tips on how to color in this coloring page I call Squid. This is from volume 1 of my coloring pages, which you can find on my website, drewimborski.com. I hope you'll like or comment on this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be great, because I would like to do more of these videos. I'm going to do more of these videos on coloring. And also, you know, there'll be videos on crochet and knit and yarn and all those other fun things, cooking, all the things I love to do. So if you subscribe to my channel, then you'll be the first to know when a new video comes out. There we go.